is Tormey, CEO of Xenon VR Inc., has more than 45 years of sales and marketing and executive management experience in the global biopharmaceutical and medical device markets. Most recently, he held the position of Chief Executive Officer at Kibo Biotech Marketing, a novel treatment for chronic kidney disease. Prior to that, he was a member of the board and vice chairman of the Prevention Pharmaceuticals Inc. and president and CEO. Additionally, he has either launched or leads sales and marketing teams promoting some of the most iconic consumer brands in the world, such as Advil, Tylenol, Imodium, etc., and several dozen groundbreaking prescription products, Aricept, Cipro, Flonase, Ultram, etc. He has a BS in biology from St. Vincent College with executive development work at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania and Duke Law, Duke University Focus School Directors Education Institute. And with that, he'll be talking to us about the challenges faced by a startup and US-based medical device company. I think a lot of us can relate to that, and we'll be able to learn a lot from your presentation.
Well, very good, and thank you for the introduction. Let's see. Do I simply advance the slides here like this? No. Can you give me control of the screen? Because I have the presentation downloaded here too on my hard drive. Yep.
It's up to you. Yeah, you can also share your screen, so if you want, you can navigate it.
Yes, let me do that if I may.
Sure.
Just tell me when. There you go. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I pulled it up here in preparation. Okay. Can you all see this screen?
Not right now.
No.
Click on your entire screen and then click the blue share button.
On this one here, I see a microphone and a camera.
And then the next one beside the video is
okay. Screen share. Oh, very cool. All right. So I will share. Sorry for the this technical thing here. Entire screen, yes. Okay. Share. Permission to use screen is missing. Oh, okay. Well, we'll just use the presentation that's on the, rather than use up a lot of time here. I'll use the one that you were going to use there. There we go. Can you go to projection mode, please? There you go. And the space bar. There you go. Okay. So as Doctor pointed out, my presentation, albeit brief, will cover some of the challenges faced by an upstart US-based medical device company. So let's get started. Next slide, please. First, the obligatory disclaimer, as pointed out by Dr. Raphael. I am a biopharmaceutical medical device executive with a lot of years of experience. Some blue chip companies you obviously recognize, Johnson & Johnson being one of them. I was an executive at American Home Products. You probably knew it better when it changed its name to Wyeth, and then later it was acquired by Pfizer. I'm currently the CEO of Xenon VR, and I'll describe that in just a second. I'm the former CEO of a biotech company called Kibo and a pharmaceutical company called Prevention. I'm the former senior VP of business development across North America for a division of Quintiles, now known as IQVIA. I'm the former president and COO of Nelson Professional Sales, and a similar role as the medical phone company president, COO, and was co-owner. Please note that all the views expressed here are my personal views, and not necessarily those of Xenon, as well as those of the other companies I've had the pleasure of working with. Next slide. So what about Xenon VR? I can tell you a little bit. We're still in the developmental phase. We've got patents issued, but I'm a little guarded in all the information, all the secret sauce, if you wish. Hit the space bar, please. So what have we done here? We have a portable eye examination using virtual reality, artificial intelligence, machine learning. We refer to it affectionately as the eye exam in a headset. Okay, it's a new, accurate, and easier way for the doctor in conducting routine eye exams as well as assessing serious eye health issues. It is the next generation of eye exams, and We are currently still seeking funding. Okay, we've done the friends and family round, and we have seed capital raise underway now. And I'll be happy to take checks from anybody who's interested in investing in us. We expect this product to be 510K exempt, and because what we are doing is not especially new. What we're doing is how we're collecting the data is unique. Okay, for instance, one of the examinations will be replacing a machine called the auto refraction, as well as the Forraptor. These are used for your corrective eye lenses. If you've done that test recently, you've done the test for this as what's clear, lens 1 or lens 2, that whole routine. We do that. That machine is already out there. It's already approved by the FDA. What we will be doing is collecting the data, the results of those tests electronically, storing them in our the iPad we're giving the doctor, and then ultimately to the cloud. And the prescriptions can be written from that. We are not a B2C model. We are instead a B2B. We will be selling our device to doctors, optometrists in particular, who are office-based. Let's see. Moving to the next slide, please. And the next. Okay. So let's get to the meat of the story here. The question is, as an entrepreneur, as a person either considering or already in the medical device industry, the big question is, are you up to it? Okay. Entrepreneurs are, by their very nature, risk takers. Of course, they have the ability to leap tall buildings in a single bound. We all know that. We also know that they have incredible vision and self-confidence. And you'll find out through this presentation, I'm a big boxing fan. So some of you might recognize the name Mike Tyson. He has this quote that I found interesting. He goes on to say, I'm scared every time I go into the ring, but it's how you handle it. What you have to do is plant your feet, bite down on your mouthpiece, and say, let's go. And that's a theme that's going to run throughout this brief presentation of mine. Next slide. So startups. Starting a business is indeed a major accomplishment for any business person. But more importantly, keeping up the business is a bigger test. Getting started with all of its challenges is one thing. Keeping it up and running and profitable is a very different thing. There are numerous standard difficulties just about every business faces, whether they're big and startup or large. These incorporate things like employing the perfect individuals to fill the seats, creating a brand for your product, etc. But let's get to the crux of the issue. You need cash. Okay, why do we need cash now? Well, it's pretty obvious, but let me state it. To support the activities like programming, or in my case, in product development of a device. You're going to need some office space. You're going to need to promote your brand. And of course, these are just the tip of the iceberg. I'll go through a few more as this presentation goes on. One of the things you will learn, of course, is new ways to save money, to economize on all of your expenses. And planning. Is a nice quote here from Sophia Martin. She says, good planning helps companies grow 30% faster. If that's true, that's a big plus. Next slide, please. Let's address first the personal challenges, okay? If you're starting up now, or you've been down this road, I'm sure you can attest to some of these. You will get surprise expenses, okay? Let's keep them minimized, and you're better to address these when they come up through having a very thorough business plan, anticipating all of these different things that can come up. You will have logistical anomalies. We have in our experiences here. These can come up, and they obviously are quite unexpected. So again, awareness and preparation for these type of anomalies is a big plus in your favor. Self-deception. It's easy in the startup mode, much harder when you've taken that leap to actually incorporate your brand. this is the phrase I hear from time to time: drinking your own champagne or eating your own dog food. You start believing all those things that you want the company to be, but you're under the cloud of self-deception. You got to understand exactly where you are today, and not where you describe the company as to where you want it to be. That's for another task. Total burnout. This is important too. If you don't give your head, your soul, and your body the breaks that they need, collapse is inevitable. And I can personally attest to this. You get so wrapped up, it's 24/7. You're sleeping very little, you're not exercising, etc., because you're so dedicated to the success of your startup. Recognize that. Get out and run around the block, go to the gym. And loneliness. Strive for a good work-life balance, okay, and keeping your network of support real close by. And that could be a variety of forms. That could be your family. It could be friends. It could be additional other entrepreneurs. And there's a lot of organizations you can join that will assist you, because people have gone through these pains. Maybe some of the people on this call have experienced these type of things and could be great counselors for you. And being aware of and preparing for these potential personal challenges is a great way to start that journey of entrepreneurship. May I have the next slide, please? Now, some rules for a successful entrepreneur. And I warned you earlier, I'm a big boxing fan. So I'll draw this analogy, and I apologize for those who are offended by sports analogies, but this one I kind of like. Maybe you will too. Boxing is a test of your mental and physical strength. You must master your strategy to overcome your opponent and be reined in as the champion. Remember that implementing the strategy of a champion begins way before you enter the ring. Be prepared. Prepare your mind and your body for greatness, implementing health habits such as getting enough sleep and exercise, as mentioned a moment ago. Study your opponent and learn where they are vulnerable. What is their weakness, so you can eclipse them with the right time and the right moments and movements. Be a lifetime learner. And when you're consistently working on your craft, you'll be ready for anything that comes your way. I find that personally inspiring. Next slide. So some of the common challenges faced by startups, especially in our world of medical devices, having unrealistic expectations of your device and the development thereof, and probably just as, if not more important, over-promising. This is a common malady for inexperienced entrepreneurs, inexperienced CEOs of startup medical device companies, and I might others. Is that when you're dealing with these investment people, you again might overpromise what you can actually deliver. These people are very sensitive to that, and you need to be careful in working with them. Partnership decisions. Who can you partner with? And I'm talking not just, can you go back one slide? I'm talking partnership, not just your vendors, of course, critically important, but those who can play a role in perhaps exit strategies down the road. You can partner with a major corporation who might have venture capital monies, or might be very interested in assisting you as an equity partner and as a potential exit strategy partner. Financial management. Get yourself a reputable financial consulting firm. I can't stress that enough. They can assist you in that pro forma, the P&L, your balance sheet, all the projections. They can assist you with that, so you're not starting from scratch. Obviously, address cybersecurity. I don't need to tell you about what's going on with China and Russia, but it's important to address that early on. Finally, expect fierce competition. And often that leads to you feeling like a little small fish in a very large and shark-filled tank. Okay, and these were adapted by a fellow named Brad Hadini, and my presentation will be made available. His LinkedIn, Twitter address is available here. Next slide. So one of the questions you need to ask yourself are you one of those brilliant scientists, a brilliant inventor, but maybe not such a brilliant business person? Okay, and I see this a lot. can you communicate with potential investors? That is, can you describe your product, or your idea, or your ideas to non-scientists? I encourage people to use the 3 C's. If you've never heard of that before, it's something I use. It's called, when you're communicating, is your message clear? Is it concise? And is it convincing? Make sure you follow those 3 C's when you're developing your pitch deck. Do you suffer from founderitis? If you haven't heard that phrase, I use it too, and use the definition where you have all the answers and you are perfect in every way, and that you really don't need the advice of others. And I see this especially with founding CEOs and chairmen. It's their way or the highway, and they're not really open to other ideas. Watch for that. I've been involved in companies where it is incredibly painful, where the person is making some decisions, doesn't really have the business acumen. Okay, so be on the watch out for that. Know that your business is not going to run itself. Okay, that whole notion of a 40-hour work week is not going to happen. Certainly not in the short term. So set your expectations. Next. So considerations in raising the funds that are required for your venture. Of course, there's quite a few. One of the more popular ones today is a SAFE, which simply means a simple agreement for future equity. Check with your financial person on how to do this. There are, of course, convertible notes. Another popular notion. I've started companies using convertible notes, and this is where you offer them a nice percentage on their money, and they get a discount on the subsequent rounds, maybe as much as 18 or 20% on the cost of the equity. There's certainly equity investments. That's pretty straightforward. Do you have a term sheet and other definitive documents? What about the valuation of your company? The pre-money valuation and ultimately your post-money valuation. And note, please, that the value of your company is exactly what the buyer is going to pay for it. You can have all these grandiose ideas, but at the end of the day, somebody else is determining the value of your company. Have you offered these early investors the rights and preferences? Do you have protective provisions for them as early investors? Have you considered the due diligence these investors are going to be doing on you and your company? And that's not only the financial documents, but the bios of your staff and you, all the other contracts and agreements that you have in place, a complete review of your debt structure, who do you owe money to now, etc. And finally, and obviously for everybody on this call, you know about the importance of regulatory compliance. Next slide, please. Okay, raising sufficient money. Okay, I would suggest starting with potential investors who invest in companies at your particular stage. Are you pre-seed? Are you seed? Are you Series A, Series B? My experience has been many investors do not cross all of those verticals. Instead, they specialize in one or two. Okay, so you need to find those investors who invest in your sweet spot. And many of these companies today, these investment firms, are offering online applications in addition to direct contact. So just be prepared to see that if you investigate it, they're going to have you fill out these long forms and give them information on your company and maybe call you back. Your pitch deck. First of all, do you have one? Okay. Is it understandable? Use plenty of charts and graphs. And have you included the financial information, your pre-money valuation, your current and projected revenues and expenses? Does it include your management team and their strengths, their background? And do you at least make reference to a potential exit strategy? These are things that have got to be in this presentation to get a serious investor. Next slide. There you go. Thank you. At this time, too, you want to define your product and the product offering, okay? Know the audience you are pitching. Do some homework. You might have some contacts there that you weren't even aware of, or people that share their experiences with yours on LinkedIn, for instance. Okay, research the heck out of them. Note that many of these investors are only interested in a few things. How much money do you need? How will you spend my money? And how soon will I get my money back? Okay, and I know that's overly simplistic, but the bottom line, most of these investors are multimillionaires, a lot of them very, very young, and those are the things they're interested in. They're not necessarily going to be interested in your technology. Okay, and recommend or recognize, of course, that raising money always takes twice as much time and twice the cost that you expected it to be. And know too that investors will not fully understand your technology. These are money people. Okay, they may have a passing familiarity with your technology, but don't count on them fully understanding it. And note too that technology by itself seldom sells itself. You've got to sell that technology and bring it down to layman's terms, non-scientific terms. Next slide. The next important aspect is know your IP and learn how to explain that IP. Okay, get a doggone fine IP in place as early as possible, because investors are one of the first things they're going to look for. And get yourself a good IP law firm. Remember I said things costing twice as much and taking twice as much time? This is another one of those areas. So get a good law firm that knows IP specifically in your therapeutic areas. Know if there's any prior art. The world's a pretty busy place. Somebody else in the world's probably got an idea similar to yours. And that's one of the things you'll check out is prior art. Are you going to be getting your patents in the USA or rest of the world, or perhaps you're going for both? And have you budgeted for these expensive filings and maintenance of these patents? Next slide, please. Now, let's talk a little bit about marketing in what I hope to be a soon-to-be post-pandemic world. Okay, is there still a need for your device? I imagine it probably would be, but who knows? Okay, you want to determine, is there still a need for it? Is there strong market research behind your assumptions regarding that supposed need? And is the device hygienic? Okay, have you addressed the latest issues regarding antibacterial or antiviral standards? And they're changing by the minute. Got to keep in touch with those. Next slide. Probably the most important slide is the people. Now, the people you surround yourself with. And I'll start with a quote from a grandmother I think I certainly had, and maybe you guys did too. Your grandmother probably told you that people will judge you by the company you keep. Well, this is certainly true for investors. Okay, they make a large part of their decision-making process is based on the management team that you are surrounding yourself with. Okay, and ask yourself, does this team have category experience? Do they have the business experience, be serving as a board member or perhaps a former CEO of a similar type of company? And are executives, have been executives. Have the right people in the right seats at the right time. And maybe not early on, but plan to compensate them appropriately and incent them. And an incentive plan that's clear and the roles and responsibilities are clearly outlined. Next slide. Continuing on with the people, do you have a board of directors? Are there more independent board members than executive members? Executive being those on a payroll or plan to be on a payroll. This is important even for a private company. Do these board members have sufficient business experience? Are they able to commit to the time it takes to be a responsible board member? Okay, and critically important, can they assist you in making introductions to potential investors or potential co-development partners and or exit strategy partners? Do you have a scientific medical advisory committee with the appropriate relevant disease and therapeutic experience, maybe even device experience, hopefully? And identify one of those as the chairperson of that committee. Next slide, please. Now, dealing with competitors. Okay, if you have a great idea, there will always be competitors. Recognize that this is a good thing. It's confirmation that you're on the right path. Okay, so when managing competitors in a similar industry, you could feel out of place. It could be threatening to you, particularly if you're competing in an area where you have surrounded by companies that are big and experienced. It could be a bit daunting. Okay, know the risk and challenges. Okay, but more importantly, stress your particular device's remarkable and distinctive advantages. Those are the key points we must focus upon. I'm going to go through the next slide, please. Now, HR and payroll. You don't even probably have employees yet, but you will. But I strongly recommend that you have agreements in place with your partners. You can scratch your head and say, look, I've known these people since graduate school. Yeah, I'm sure you're very good friends, but there's a long history of businesses whose partners fall apart. You need to have your partners under contract. Okay. Your employees, of course, will save you an awful lot of time in dealing with HR and legal issues. Have them as well as your 1099 employees. All should have contracts, agreements in place. Find a reputable payroll service company. They will keep you compliant with federal, with state, and with local regulations regarding payroll. And this too, if not done properly, can result in some very painful lawsuits down the road. Next slide. This next slide talks about something that is several years of graduate school study, okay, summarized in one or two slides. Marketing challenges, okay. Your product distinction, is it better? Is it faster? Is it cheaper? Is it more accurate? Are you competing in an overcrowded market? Do you know the audience you're going to be pitching to? Okay, and how are you going to reach them? Social media, direct mail, journal advertisements, okay? And if so, what frequency? And more importantly, what message? So those are the critical factors of marketing. The right message to the right audience and the right number of times. Next slide, please. I'm approaching the end of this presentation. We have not even talked about the difficulties of scaling your operation. Taxes and tax credits these states are offering now. Do you have any public relations ideas? Do you have poor management? Do you have some people who are a little shaky this early on? You remember, you cut your losses early. Have you structured a communication plan, both for internal communication and external? Next slide. Never neglect your marketing and sales efforts. Have you addressed the issues of FDA and Federal Trade Commission? And time management. And that boils down to, okay, what crisis du jour am I going to handle now? Because there's always going to be a crisis. There's always going to be a fire to put out. Recognizing and getting out of your comfort zone. Next and final slide. So in conclusion, I love this Nike thing here. They're saying they were using for a while. Just do it. Do your research. Write an exceptional business plan. Proof it. Edit it. Update it frequently. And tap your friends and family for that initial funding. The friends and family round, Uncle Tanus in Cleveland may be loaded and may love you to death, and he may write that first few checks that you need. Expect long hours, lots of Zoom calls, and a lot of hat in hand trying to raise money. You will be kissing a lot of frogs, as they say. Be courageous. Yes, it's going to be a challenge, but persevere is my advice because the rewards can be great. Thank you. I think I've eaten up all my time, Dr. Raphael. So thank you, everybody. I think my presentation will be made available to you all.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. I think we can all learn about that and relate to, especially myself, that we're in the startup world. Thanks for everything.
My pleasure.
I think, Sam, is there time for questions, or do we move on to the next one?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do have a minute or two for questions while the next speaker preps. So if anyone has...
How do we see those questions?
Let me just hover over here. I'll give it everyone 30 seconds or so. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to type it. Otherwise, like Terry said, his presentation will be made available after the program. And again, I do want to thank you, Terry, for presenting with us. and showcasing the next steps that these companies can use to get
It's
funding.
been my pleasure. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So then we'll head over to our next presenter, Stephen Hull, who will be speaking about reimbursement. So let's all just go to